you know, I don't care who you are, Kwadwo, everybody's affected by this, somewhere along the line. There are certain winners, but mostly I think we're losers in all of this. So, where does it hit hardest? Where does it hit worst? Where are you more concerned on that ladder?
I mean, like you said, it's affecting absolutely everyone. I mean, it's becoming more, especially with the cost of living crisis too, impossible to purchase a house. So you're left with two other options, really, and that's to rent privately or social housing. Now, what we're seeing is the highest level of renting prices, and in terms of social housing renting to at its highest level in 10 years. So it is affecting people massively. And in talking about social housing, and that's where I specialise in, it's we all know complete waiting lists are ridiculously long. I mean, it's impossible for people to get.
Well, let me ask you this. Why don't local authorities, I mean, explain, I understand the system is not properly funded. Local authorities and government, they all talk the talk, but nobody's walking the walk. We need social housing. We need social housing to make cities exist and function and give people a certain dignity and make them available for a job market and all sorts of things. Why does the system not work? Why is government not investing in it?
Well, I mean, it's never been seen as a priority. This isn't an issue over the last year. This has been going on for absolute decades. Housing has never been seen as a priority. And when we look at social housing, we have to look at housing as a system. I mean, the private market affects people in social housing too. Look at social housing at the moment. Like you said, there's not enough supply. And you look at demand, it will never meet if we don't get control of private rent too, because at its highest level, people won't be able to continue affording to rent privately. What that means is they're going to fall onto an already stretched system, and it's a cycle. Unless it's broken, it won't be fixed.
We talk about social housing, and you know the assumption is we're talking about houses, but very often social housing is flats, isn't it? Is that something to do with the waiting list? Because you very often have people in flats, in social housing, who then have families and very quickly outgrow it. I think, for example, a case study of somebody I spoke to very recently, 3 children sharing one bedroom, on the waiting list for a house in her borough, so her children don't have to move schools. She's been told 2 to 5 years before that is likely to happen. So is the problem that we're knocking up these tower blocks that just aren't simply, there isn't enough stock of houses?
No, exactly. There's not enough space, I think. There's not enough investment, really. And the thing is, with these houses that are going up, I don't believe they're regulated properly. So the houses that are being built, I mean, I visited new builds, one only a few days ago where it was put up in 2012, completely falling apart now.
In London?
This was in Essex.
Okay.
So I've been going outside of London. But, I mean, like you said, there's just not enough homes to meet demand. But going back to that point, supply and demand will never meet unless there's more investment in social homes and building social homes, but also control over private rental prices, because it's just impossible. I'll give you an example. One person I spoke to, a student my age, I'm 23, is paying £1,050 in Clapham for a room in a 5-bedroom property. And for me, I wouldn't be able to afford that. I don't know how she is, but it's completely, I think, unacceptable. To expect people to have to pay, especially during a cost of living crisis. People are having to choose whether to top up their gas and electric or feed themselves. And the problem is, people in Parliament, Rishi Sunak, Boris Johnson, Keir Starmer, won't have these issues. They won't have to worry about whether their electric or gas is going to cut off or whether they're going to be able to feed themselves. But the everyday person will, especially come next winter.
It's opportunism and it's theft, really. What makes you tick? I'm looking how engaged you are, how young you are, how this means and why this means so much for you. I mean, you're an activist. You don't work for anybody on the front of this, you know, so you tweet and you get involved. Why does it hurt? Why does it mean so much?
I think because I've experienced it and I know how rife it is, really, and how many people are affected by it. But it's just not seen as a priority. I feel like people in social housing or of a specific class are just looked down upon and neglected, and it's been going on for so long. And I've got to the point now where I'm like, why is no one, and the people that are elected in order to speak up for these people, why are they not? It shouldn't take me or activists to have to come out and do it, but unfortunately we're having to.
And you talk about, you know, you've had this experience yourself. Tell us about your experiences, because we've had you in on the programme before and you showed us some horrifying videos of the kind of conditions people were being forced to put up with in social housing. Was that something that you experienced yourself? Yeah, I mean, I was living in a home completely falling apart, social housing. It was a housing association property. I mean, damp mould, didn't have a bathroom, didn't have
But
kitchen.
it's not what a housing association is there for, to make sure that doesn't happen.
And you wouldn't think, and I think that's why people are so surprised seeing my posts and me being able to take them into social housing and see it firsthand, the raw end of things, because it's absolutely horrific. No human being should be... It's slum conditions at the end of the day, and I think that's why I fight so much, because I've been into homes where people have sewage running down their walls, their homes flooding with sewage, central heating pipes bursting in people's homes. One lady I know, both her feet was burnt as a result of her central heating pipe exploding, flooding her home with boiling hot water during the night, and she had to run through it in order to get out.
Ghastly.
This is how bad it is.
It is as bad as that. And, you know, Kwadwo, not to directly compare these things, but, you know, I understand everything that you're saying there. And I was driving through Richmond the other night and I was looking at a really nicely managed social housing project, and I thought, that's brilliant what they're able to do there. And the answer isn't tower blocks.
Yeah,
the answer is,
exactly.
you know, small groups of housing that people have dignity with. But I also think about private developments, right? I'm not talking about renting them or anything. I'm talking about people who spend hundreds of thousands, if not millions of pounds on shoeboxes that are built on main roads. The quality...
Why are you looking at me?
No, I'm just saying the quality. I mean, because on our route into work, I would sit and say, why is somebody paying 600,000, 700,000 pounds to breathe in those fumes? But people seem to buy them. And it's absolutely awful, the way we give planning permission. We're talking of London here, but this could be Manchester, it could be Belfast we're talking about. And the quality of the property that people are getting for the money that they are spending, with no quality of life associated with these things.
Yeah, I mean...
I don't expect you to feel sorry for somebody spending £700,000. What I'm just simply saying is, why is it allowed to happen?
That's a good question, and I wish I knew the answer to that. But I mean, just an example, you've got that side of things, but then you've got people in temporary accommodation having to stay in sheds.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Car garages, storage units.
Do you feel like in this cost of living debate, which we talk about all the time, and it is 100% the number one thing on the agenda of the British public at the moment, do you think that housing gets left out of the debate in all of this? And how can you get the ear of the government, if that is the case, and make them listen to what you're saying?
Most definitely. I mean, I have to say, I think, especially the Conservative government at the moment, I've met with Secretary of State Michael Gove and I've spoken to them and highlighted the issues. They actually saw it via my social media. So I've had that conversation with them and I hope they do respond. It does look like they will. I have to say I'm disappointed in the Labour leader, the person that's supposed to be there for the people and represent the people. A majority of people living in social housing tenant will vote for him, but it's been an absolute disgrace, I have to say, that he hasn't spoken up in the last year about the living conditions people are going through across the country. But like you said, I feel like they will have to listen. I mean, the general election's going to be here before we all know it, and I'm determined to make sure housing is top of the priority when it comes to topics going to be discussing and talking about, because change really needs to happen before people die in their homes. How
do we follow you and keep up to date with what you're doing? Where are you in social media?
So I've got Twitter and Instagram, so it's at Kwadwo Housing, so that's KWAJO Housing.
Housing, yeah.
And I'm also on TikTok.
Yeah.
So I take people into other people's homes that are falling apart, essentially, and that's the same, Kwadwo Housing.
Welcome to the GB News YouTube channel. You can watch us live 24 hours a day, catch up on your favourite shows and join in the conversation in the comments below.
Don't forget to subscribe and you'll never miss any of our exclusive content.